Hey everyone. Today you are going to be taking notes on the distance and midpoint formulas. Now, these should not be new. We did midpoint and distance back in first semester, so this is just a recap of it. So first off, we're going to take a look at the midpoint formula. So you're always going to have your given be 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. Now for the midpoint formula, midpoint is equal to x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. All right, first thing we're going to do, I'm going to label our points, x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have 12 plus negative 8 all over 2, comma, negative 3 plus 7 all over 2. And so then we're going to have 12 plus negative 8 is going to be 4 over 2. Negative 3 plus 7 over 2 is another 4 over 2. And then we're going to simplify those both down to 2, comma, 2. So there is our midpoint. All right, for the try it yourself, pause, actually try it yourself, and then unpause this video. Sorry about my dogs barking. I'm recording this at home. All right, so if you're back, I am setting up this. So negative 5 plus negative 3, we have negative 8 over 2. 7 plus negative 9 is negative 2 over 2. And so this is going to be negative 4, negative 1 for our midpoint. All right. So now that we have reviewed midpoint, we're now going to go to the distance formula. So distance formula, given, just like with midpoint, 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. All right, distance formula. This is a little bit more involved. So d is equal to the square root, parentheses, x2 minus x1, close parentheses, squared, plus y2 minus y1 squared. All right. So now we're going to find them. And we are going to leave the square root unsimplified. So you do not have to break these down with a tree, which I'm sure you guys are going to be happy about. So first, label x1, y1, x2, y2. So d is equal to the square. Oh, that's a really weird square root. All right, x2. So we have negative 8 minus x1 is 12 squared, plus y2 is 7 minus negative 3 squared. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify inside the parentheses first. So negative 8 minus 12. So that's going to be negative 20 squared, plus 7 minus a negative 3. The minus a negative becomes plus. So that's going to be 10 squared. Now you should be able to put everything underneath the square root into your calculator. and we're going to get the square root of 500. Normally, we would break this down with the tree method, but we are leaving our square root unsimplified. So here is our distance. Again, try it yourself. Pause the video. Which, who am I kidding? You guys are probably not going to pause the video. You're probably just going to continue watching it. So might as well just dive right into the problem. Here I have x1, y1, x2, y2 labeled. So distance is equal to the square root, x2, so -3 minus -5 squared, plus -9 minus 7 squared. So square root, -3 minus -5. So again, we are simplifying underneath the parentheses. So that's going to be 2 squared plus -9 minus -7 is -16 squared. And now we're going to plug that into our calculator, which I need to pull up real quick. So 2 squared plus 16 squared, and we get the square root of 260. And again, we are not simplifying it. We're leaving it unsimplified. So that's going to be our final answer. All right, so that's when they give you 2 points. We're now going to move on, and this time they're going to give us a graph. Here's what I recommend doing from the graph. First, I'm going to label the 2 points A and B. So I'm going to call this A, call this B. Then we're going to identify those 2 points. So point A is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, -4, -4. And then B is at +2, 0. So those are our 2 points that we are now going to use to find the midpoint and the length. Remember, length is just another word for distance. So x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's find the midpoint first. So we have -4 plus 2 divided by 2, -4 plus 0 divided by 2. So we have -2 over 2, -4 over 2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. -4 divided by 2 is -2. So there is our midpoint. We're now going to find distance. So D is equal to the square root. So 2 minus -4 squared plus 0 minus -4 squared. Ooh, forgot some parentheses. Again, I'm going to simplify underneath. So 2 minus a -4 is going to become 6 squared plus 0 minus -4 is 4 squared. So this is going to become 36 plus 16. So it's going to be the square root of 52. And again, we are leaving them unsimplified. So there's the distance. There's the midpoint. All right, last try it yourself. But again, we'll just go ahead and go on and do it. Again, we're going to label A and B. It does not matter which one you make A or B, okay? I just like to do the one most on the left is my A, one most on the right is my B. Then we're going to identify them. So A is at 1, 2, 3, negative 3, 3. And B is at positive 1, negative 2. We're going to do the exact same thing, midpoint and distance. So the midpoint, negative 3 plus 1 over 2. 3 plus negative 2 over 2. So we have negative 2 over 2 and 1 over 2. And this is going to simplify down to negative 1 and 0.5. So yes, decimals are A-okay here in your midpoint. On the answer key of the worksheet, it's going to be decimals. So there's our midpoint. We're now going to do distance. So we have 1 minus negative 3 squared plus negative 2 minus 3 squared. Simplify underneath, square root. So that's going to be 4 squared plus negative 5 squared. And now 4 squared plus 5 squared. We're going to get the square root of 41. And there we go. All right, last problem. And this is actually going to get us started for kind of a hint into next week. We just want to know, is this actually a parallelogram? So what we're going to do is side AB, which is right here, is that congruent to CD? Remember, congruent means same length. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the distance of both of them. So we have to do the distance formula twice. So let's first do the distance of AB. So we need to first identify the points A and B. So A is at 2, 1, and B is at 3, 5. So distance is equal to, so again, x2 minus x1, so 3 minus 2 squared plus 5 minus 1 squared. 3 minus 2, so we have 1 squared plus 4 squared. So that's the square root of 17. So AB's distance is the square root of 17. We're now going to find the length of CD. So again, we need the 2 points, C and D. So C is at 6, 5. 6, 5, yep. And D is at 5, 1. So distance is equal to the square root, 5 minus 6 squared, plus 1 minus 5 squared. 5 minus 6 is negative 1 squared, plus 1 minus 5 is negative 4 squared. And when we take that into account, that is the square root of 17. So we have just shown that those two sides are congruent because they are the same. And there you go, our quick refresher on midpoint and distance formula. Your homework is the worksheet. It is due on Monday. I'll see you guys later.